and today we got to play Ex Libris. This is a Renegade game about building a library, which is...
A mystic library.
A mystic library, which is super exciting because libraries are my home happy place. All right, so before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are awesome. And we like board games.
And magic.
And that's the things we do. So... tell us more about this particular game, Randy.
So Ex Libris was released in 2017. It's got a Board Game Geek rating of 7.2, a Board Game Geek rank of 646. It's 1 to 4 players, lasts roughly 45 minutes, which is probably about right. Age recommendation is 10 and up, probably close. You could probably do a little younger, but it'd be close to that.
Yeah, that's fine though.
Design is by Adam McIver. Art is Jackie Davis. Published by Renegade Game Studios, as you mentioned. It does appear to be out of print and varies widely depending on where you go to buy it. So when it first looked, I could find it Amazon selling it for $279.49.
Holy moly!
If you go to eBay, it's ranging roughly $150 to $165. But if you go to the Geek Market on Board Game Geek, you can get a new copy for $5. So it big range there. I would recommend checking out Board Game Geek Market if you're interested in this game.
So this game actually, I always end up getting it confused with Alma Mater.
Mm-hmm.
And Randy's been like, "No, you haven't played this," and I was like,
"Oh, I played it for the first time at Gen Con this year because I took it specifically to learn since." I wanted something that would be quick and easy to learn, and that we hadn't played yet.
So yeah, so we did get to learn this one. So let's talk about quality of pieces. So I am loving some of these pieces. You got a gelatinous cube. You've got a ghost. You have a little robot. Depending on your special ability powers. And then you have your standard workers, which look like little gnomes.
Yeah, they're gnomes. There's 3, depending on number of players. If you're playing with a solo game, or if you're playing the beginner game where you don't have special abilities, you get 3 of the gnomes, so they give an extra. But typically, you're going to play with 2 of them. And there's 4 varieties of colors because it is up to a 4-player game. And then you've got all of your special workers are all custom colored and custom shaped.
They're really cool. Oh, there's a Yoda, aka a goblin, but it does look like a Yoda. Look.
There's a snake, a fire, a witch.
Yeah, so they've got some cool things going on with this special abilities. Oh, there's the Abominable Snowman, which is kind of cool. That's not his name, but that's pretty much what he does. So that's pretty cool. Card quality, not linen finish.
Yeah.
But I think a pretty good
thickness.
So, I mean, I guess it's more if you like more of the glossy kind of thing.
The only thing that's kind of lame is the first player token is just like a little button almost. It
just seems, when you've got all these really other cool stuff, then you have a button.
They could have put a 1 on it at least, but they didn't. And then you get a dry erase board for scoring, which I really like. That's nice.
That is really nice. Because always with the score pad, you always end up running out. So that is kind of nice. So overall, though, what would you give it for quality of pieces?
Oh, well, it also comes with the main board, which really is just a reminder of how to score at the end of the game. All in all, I mean, I probably think it's a mixed bag in general because the card quality isn't the best. It's not horrible, but the linen finish being missing. And then the first player token is really a distraction. But other than that, it's pretty good. I'm going to give it a 6.5, I think is where I'm at.
A 6.5? Okay. Well, I think I'm going to give it a little bit higher. This does have a presence on the board, and there's nothing that shouts out not good quality for me. I mean, I do think for a first player token, it's not the quality that bugs me. It's just the kind of the lameness factor.
Well, plus it's small.
So I'm actually probably going to give this a 7. I do think it's a little more than a 6.5. I do think they've got some good things. And I think it directly feeds into theme. So let's talk about theme. You're building a library, and there's a lot of little coolness. Like if all the books are different. Like you're reading the titles of the books; those are different. Those are a lot of fun. The special abilities for your character are kind of great.
I love, like, there's just puns. Every book title is a play either on a real movie or a real.
Yes. I feel like Andrew would really like this because he
like
he loves puns.
the never starting story, like instead of the never ending story. I mean, this is great. They've got little
incorrect maps and incorrect atlases.
Just all kinds of little touches like that, and they're categorized into 6 different buckets, and the titles fit each of those buckets. So they have reference books, and then that's where you find your atlases and such, and the historic ones, and then you've got the ones about creatures and.
There's fantasy. The little green, the green with the feather.
So they really put a lot of effort into the theme on this
Bad
game.
omens and omelets, guys. That's pretty good.
So yeah, I mean, it's just fun to read the cards, and there's 152 of them with from 2 to 4 books on them. So there are a ton of books in there.
Well, the thing is you really are building a library because you're trying to manage having a thorough collection with avoiding some banned books, but also trying to specialize in what the current is, but then also you have your own likes, with that end-game scoring card. And so it's a lot of fun. You are building a library. I think it's a fantasy library, and it's a cute theme. I really, really liked the theme, and I think it really got you involved, especially with picking out the different book, the uniqueness of the book names.
Our librarian friends would love this.
They kind of would, wouldn't they?
Yes.
We're gonna have to get them over here to play it. So overall for theme, I'm going to give this a solid 8. Like, this is a pretty good theme.
I'm going to go higher, actually. I think the art is pretty, very
pretty. The art
pretty.
is very pretty.
And just the detail they put into every book being custom, that's just amazing. And then all of the little figures being, like the gelatinous cube being see-through with a little bubble
totally
in the middle.
That's totally going to end up being used in a role-playing.
That is really awesome. Given that, I'm going to probably give this a 9 on a theme.
Oh, well, I feel like I underscored it. It's a really good theme. It's a solid theme. So now let's talk about rules.
So we didn't.
Luckily, we didn't have to read the rules this time.
Yeah, because I played it at Gen Con, I just skimmed it again. But it's not. The rule book is actually longer than you would expect for a game that's this simplistic. It's actually 24 pages.
Would you call this a light game or a light to medium game?
I would consider this probably on the higher end of a light game. I don't think I think this is something, especially if you don't play with the player powers. You can play this very simply. It's not an introductory. It's light though. I don't think this is like the first game you should pick up if you're trying to learn games.
Correct, but couple games in.
If you had someone that was teaching you the game, I think that would be not a problem. Because it is very simple. But, that said, there is some depth to the actions and different things you do in it. The rulebook's pretty well done. There is a little bit of redundancy in it as far as the scoring. It's in here a couple times, which is the main part of the game, is just knowing, because you need to know what you're trying to score at the end of the game, so you can set yourself up to do that. And there isn't a whole lot of choices as far as your actions. You're either getting cards or playing cards into your tableau, so it didn't have to spend a lot of time there. So it spent most of its focus on choosing the actions and how to score. So all in all, the rulebook's effective. It's got a lot of nice pictures, and it does go through and have a section for explaining in detail all of the locations and all of the player special abilities. That said, a lot of them, it just reiterated what was actually on the tile. So, because I guess they didn't have anything else to add, so it's not really giving you any bonus by having it in here, because some of it was verbatim what was printed on the tile. But there are a few that had additional.
Well, to be fair,
notes.
some of these tiles are hard to read, so that's okay.
It is. Yes, there was some. That is one challenge with the tiles. The font on the tiles
some of them were difficult.
Blended in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, some of them I was trying to be like, all right, let's see how bad my eyes are. I mean,
the low lighting in the room, it didn't help. Yeah, if you have a bright room, I don't think it'd be as bad. I know at Gen Con we didn't notice this problem, but here with it being darker, I think it was harder to see, because we definitely need to change our light bulbs at some point. So all in all, I think this was pretty good rule book. I'll give it a 7.5.
So 7.5. Okay. So let's actually talk about gameplay. So gameplay is pretty straightforward. You have a card. So for like this game, mine was the fantastical fiction. So this is not going to be shown to everybody. This is your personal end of game scoring bonus. So each one of these icons that you end up getting at the end of the game will give you 2 victory points. And so the other things that you're going to be looking for is the predominant works. So these are works that right now that they're interested in. And so that will be a random card, or not a random card, but one of the types of the books that are going to be played. And then you also have the banned books. So books that people aren't looking for, or that you're not going to get victory points, or you actually get penalties for. That's going to be in this section.
And these are all coming from the same pile, so there is no overlap. So there's 6 different suits, up to 4 players. One's going to be banned, and one's going to be the preferred. And then each player will have one. So there's no chance of somebody getting lucky and getting the preferred one to be their goal, or the banned one if you get to be penalized by it.
And then the other thing that you're going to get scored by is overall variety of books inside of your library, excluding the banned book. Okay, so you can.
So whichever one you have the fewest of, you'll get that category. That's going to be your multiplier.
Yeah. And so basically, so here's what happens. So basically, you have 3 different workers. I'll be yellow to go with my little yellow guy. And then I get to play them. So in the beginning of the round, there are going to be 3 tiles in a 3-player game. Is that always the same? Is it always 3, or does
You're always going to have 3 workers. If you're playing the basic game,
no, but I'm talking about the tiles.
Oh, 3. You get 1 per player.
Okay, so in 3 players, 3, 4, 4. So you flip over these tiles, and then at the start, the starter player gets to place one of his workers. So you can place it on either the 3 or 4 new tiles that came out, or the ones that have been built into the system.
So each round, at the end of the round, you will preserve the lowest numbered, because they're sequential, the lowest numbered tile. So why I say they're sequential, they're numbered in the pile from 1 to n, but you shuffle the pile. So you could get 3, 7, and 12. And the lowest one is the one that's going to be saved each round.
Yeah. So with my 3 workers, if I'm first player, I'm going to choose a location for it. And then if it has a green top here, if you'll see this here, that is an instant action. So it triggers immediately. However, if it has another color, then that is resolved.
Just green and red.
So green and red. And if it is red, then it gets resolved after all the workers are placed. Most of those are the ones I saw were like bidding or payment, depending on how many people are there, or something along those lines. So that kind of thing. So you place all your workers in turn order. You go around. Once all the workers are placed, then you trigger the red cards, because the green cards would have, or the green locations would have already been triggered. The other option you have is actually your own personal board. So everyone has 3 action options to either shuffle a card or draw a card. So that one, you are trying to build your tableau. Now, when it comes to building your tableau, so as you obviously start to accumulate cards, you're also trying to build your tableau. Now, it's important to remember that they can only be 3 levels high, because any higher in the, we just can't reach it. So it's got to be only 3 levels. But you can make them as wide as you want. The problem is, the thing is you can, once the 14th card gets placed, at the end of the round, the game ends.
It depends on player count.
Oh, well, depending on player count. And then the other piece of it is your library has to be in alphabetical order so that people can find the books appropriately. So that does mean
Wizards do not use the Dewey Decimal System.
They don't. It's got to be alphabetical.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in place, once you place one card in your tableau, you have to be able to, when you play a card, connect it to what you've already have placed. So you've got to be careful. You kind of almost want to start with something in the middle, so you can build up and build down.
It really depends on what cards you start the game with in your hand.
That's true, because if you end up with an A, B, C, D, well then...
Yeah, and if you had a bunch of low ones, or if you had low and middle, you could play below, and because when you play adjacent, you can go above or below, so it doesn't really matter as long as you know it goes with what you got in your hand.
You're right. But you do gotta think about placement, and that is an issue. But there's not only one A. There's an A. I think there's like 7 A's.
Yeah, each letter, based on its scarcity in the alphabet and how many words are going to be in it, I guess, is going to have a certain number of books that fall, bookshelf sections that fall into it. So you'll have S's and T's that have 10 because they're more prevalent, and then
but Z only has 2.
Yeah, so you got to judge that, because if you get the A10 and you put it the first A, well, then you can't play any more A's without going potentially out of your shelving. And one of the things that you do get scored on is for having a complete stack of 3 in a column. And for the biggest section of your bookshelf that is complete from top to bottom for those 3, so you're making a square or a rectangle, then you get to take every card in that is worth a point at the end of the game. But if you have an isolated one that's hanging off, or a complete column that has a space in between, then you don't get points for those.
Yeah, so you just want to be aware of that. So now, what happens if you make a mistake? Because we all do. There are cards that allow you to move things around, or locations that can. But there's also, in the case that you can just, in fact, turn over a card, make it blank, so you can continue on your sequence. Which, again, you've lost a card. You took actions to get the card and play the card, so that can be kind of... but it's not a horrible penalty,
No,
but it is...
It's better to have an empty spot, because at least that completes your section of solid bookshelf,
right.
Which is more important than having having them sequential in some cases.
But the icons are kind of important, guys.
Yes.
That's what you get scored off of, so just being aware of that. And then all the different players will have special abilities if you play with that function. I would recommend that if you're at all familiar with games, because that gives it a little bit of spice to it, a little bit of fun. And there's so many different options for those special powers. I think it's really cool. And I actually really liked how the setup was, is you chose one, discard one. That was kind of interesting. So it's like you were able to get rid of some of those special powers that were, for us, more attacky feeling, because, we don't play very attacky around here. Or at least I don't. So I just got rid of that card, because I was like, well, I don't want to play an attacky one, but nor do I want it to come after me, so I was able to discard it. And I actually really liked that aspect of it. Because if you see something like, oh, this one's really good, but then that's really good, but I don't want someone else to have it, you can discard it. So I thought that was a pretty great mechanism. What are your thoughts on that one?
I just really wanted to play Gelatinous Cube, so I was kind of bummed that you chose that one. It wasn't even that attacky compared to one of the other ones. So
right, but Dad got rid of that one for me, so
yes.
It all worked out. But yeah, let's talk about scoring, though. What would you give this as a score?
Well, I really like the theme of this a lot.
It is a nice
and
theme.
I like the fact that it's a simple game to learn. I mean,
but it's still got some depth to it.
Yeah. I like the fact that it's a fun, whimsical game. I mean, and I love reading the books. I think I enjoy the theme more than I enjoy the gameplay. But it's still a fun game. I'm probably a 7.5 is where I'm at as far as gameplay. I think it's a solid game. Is it something as my favorites? No, but I think it's fun. It's fun.
But if someone says, let's play this, I'll be like, oh, yeah, that one was fun.
Yeah.
Right?
It's definitely, as far as an easy game to get people into, especially if they're into books. Or
I could definitely see us pulling this out on purpose, like being like, oh, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. I mean, if you like the magic Harry Potter stuff, this is a fun alternative. It's not really Harry Potter-like, but it's a library. It's got magic and wizards and such, and the names of the books look like something you might see.
I mean, if you got a Harry Potter game night, I mean, you can make it work.
Yeah, but that, or if you've got people just enjoy the monsters and dragons and such, and then you want to have a fun light game to play with them, especially a younger audience. I think this is a fun game.
I do too. So you gave it a
7.5.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I'm going to give this a 7.75. I'm not sure it's at 8 level, but I feel like it's a really good game. I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm super glad we played this. I'll definitely play this again.
I did one when I played it at Gen Con. I'm like, I wish you would have been here, because I think you would have really liked it.
Well, I got to play it now. And
Yeah.
so, yay. And I didn't have to listen to the rule reading today because you already got to play it. But, well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast, and hopefully you'll come out and hang out with us again. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.